Well, I believe the role of the school board is to make sure that the policies and the procedures are passed out to make sure our children get the best education. I see my role as a school board member is to be there to make sure that all children in Caddo Parish get a good education and be successful at the end of the day. Well, I've been involved with so many different organizations in the community. I've started out some 30 years ago working with the MPC as a board member. I've served on the Civil Service Board as all those positions, either chair or co-chair. I've worked with a nonprofit organization, Northwest Louisiana Strategy Action Council, that have dealt with a lot of money. Every organization I have been in, even in the NAACP, had to deal with budgets and procedures. I believe that my experience with those organizations and the community get me well aware to be able to handle budgets and to do things we need to do to make sure that Caddo parishes do the things they need to do for the school system. I think that the positions that are working well is the parenting center that need to be upgraded a little bit. I think we need to add Title I to it. I think we need to figure out how we can get parents engaged in their young folks' education. I think that Caddo needs to look at overall of what we're doing wrong and what we're doing right, and I hadn't had the opportunity to kind of evaluate. I want to get in there and evaluate what's working, what's not working, but we know what's not working is our kids and the low performing communities are not getting a good education. That's real concerning to me. Well, I think Caddo need to look at their budget long term, need to see what kind of budget we got in place, how we can put some money in place to try to help those folks who have paid a lot of dues into the school system to help educate our boys and girls. I don't know if we can afford to pay 100%, but I think we ought to be doing our share as a school system to try to help them along, because everybody's struggling in healthcare. And if we can do what we can do as a school board to make sure that we help those folks be able to afford affordable healthcare, I'm all for that. Well, my first step, I think the school system need to look at the district lines, how we can draw the district lines where it would keep the young folks within their district schools. As I witnessed in Caddo, a lot of kids are going out of their district for whatever reason. I think Caddo need to look at how we can say, if you stay in Booker T District, you ought to be going to Booker Watts. You stay in Green Oaks, you ought to go to Green Oaks. I think we really need to sit down and look at the district lines and see how we can make those home schools stronger and make sure that they're teaching our boys and girls at the end of the day. Well, my whole slogan is all children. That's been my whole slogan from day one. All the kids in Caddo Parish deserve a good education. District 3, with the district I represent, that we know is a low poverty community. Kids are suffering in those communities. Most schools has got a low letter grade. So we got to figure out how we can bring that low letter grade up where those kids can feel comfortable going to those community schools. And as a district-wide, we got to look at how we're spending our resources. I just believe if we look at how we're spending our resources district-wide and say, okay, if this school needs the most help, let's give them the resource and the tools they need to make sure that those young folks are successful in that district. At the same time, make sure we remain across the board to make sure all kids are getting a good education district-wide. Well, I've had chats where folks have come to me on many occasions to ask me to take stand on stuff that is against my belief and against my effort. I've always been a person to believe that your efforts is all you got. When you sacrifice that, and people lose trust and ability to trust you. So I've been tested, even in NAACP, even in the organization, the community. I've always go back to my old country raising in a little town called Ringo. It's that Dad always said, boy, you always stand on your principles and morals. You always stand on what you believe in, and don't let your effort be prosecuted or whatever because of someone wants you to do something different. So I've been there, tested and tried, and yet I'm still standing. Well, my first priority for District 3 is to figure out what we're doing wrong. Second priority is why we can't have certified teachers in every classroom in Caddo Parish. Third priority that I believe that we need to make sure we have computers in every classroom. Folks say, where are you going to get the money from? Well, I figure we found money for everything else we want to do. We ought to find money to put computers in every classroom. The reason I said computers in every classroom in the district is that even if that child graduates from high school and do not go to college, that child ought to be able to get a job and support himself. If he do not know how to work on computers, he can't even get a job at McDonald's. So let's put some innovative things in place district-wide and to say at least we're going to get this child ready and job ready if he don't go to college. So in District 3, we got some serious problems with making sure our kids, number one, graduate, and number two, that they have the tools they need to be successful once they walk out of those school buildings. And that's one of my main priorities. I just basically said that Caddo is got his best days yet to come. I just believe that. I believe that once I get to the school board with all my community experience and all my speaking out about education throughout Caddo Parish, I tell folks all the time I got a business degree, went to business school, went to Northwestern, and repaired myself. But my repairment comes from the grassroots, come from, as I call, in the ditch. Speaking out about school system, I've been a lifetime member of the state PTA since 1990, lifetime member of the district PTA since 1990, been a member of all the PTA groups in my district since I can remember. Chaired a PTA group at J.S. Clark back in the 90s, had the largest PTA group in the state. So my experience comes from parenting, being a father of a child that went to Bird, grandkids to go to Cherokee Park, grandkids to go to Ingersoll. So I've got grandkids that I'm invested in the school system that I think we got to turn the system around. So my whole experience, I tell everybody, I may not have a doctorate, but I have what I call the in the ditch experience, where I've seen kids in the community suffer, and we cannot continue longer let that happen just because of whatever.
Okay.